Welcome to the tutorial series on sequential decision analytics. I'm Warren Powell. This is the first kickoff module for this course. And in this module, what I'm going to do is focus on my personal background so that everybody understands the problems and experiences that motivate the material I'm about to present. So I like to use this tapestry slide as a sort of a quick overview of all the problems that I have personally worked on. These are not just random applications. These are actual projects that I did. A very significant part of my career in motivating problems, upper left-hand corner, was in trucking, especially truckload trucking. This was the problem class that introduced me to the problem of sequentially making decisions over time by assigning drivers to loads. I also worked in LTL trucking and parcel. In the middle, locomotives, I did a major project with Norfolk Southern Railroad. Also a spatial resource allocation problem of assigning locomotives to trains. They did air cargo. I did some simulations with the Air Force. For 10 years, I ran an energy lab, rich array of problems emphasizing uncertainty and different types of decision problems. I worked in health, mostly with the undergrads. Logistics with their products. Lower left-hand corner is a robotic scientist where we coded up an algorithm that would tell the robot what experiment to run next. E-commerce. I worked with a startup that was doing e-commerce for hotels. This is a rich array of problems, all done through CASA Lab. CASA Lab was a unique partnership between academia and industry with many of these companies. They would be funding me not just to do academic research, but to actually write code that would run in the field. And this would allow me an opportunity to test whether the model and the algorithms would work. And what really emphasized the importance of modeling. The report on the right, from the laboratory to the field and back, this emphasizes this back and forth process where you'd go to the field, see what worked, come back, change the notation. And this is what laid the groundwork to the emphasis that you're going to see on modeling. Most academics tend to take sort of a generic mathematical model and then develop whatever algorithms and maybe demonstrate them on, say, a toy problem or a made-up problem. My models had to actually work in the field. Now, I can't present this work without acknowledging the participation of the over 60 graduate students, postdocs, over 200 senior theses. The efforts of these students were incredibly educational for me, and none of this work could have happened without these students being on the front line and helping me push through these problems. Here's just a picture of my team in the very last semester. It was my largest team, but it emphasizes how this is not just, top-level PhDs. This is a whole crew of, there's about 8 undergrads in this. I would often be supervising 8 to 10 senior theses at the same time. Always had applications. It is always possible to say, oh, here's a problem to work on. Now, over time, I started to find that virtually every problem in the domain of human processes combines decisions and uncertainty. You go in any problem where there's humans, they're making decisions, and new information arrives, which means those decisions are made under the uncertainty of the information that hasn't yet arrived. Now, what are we trying to do? We're trying to maximize profits or reduce costs or reduce risk or increase the strength of material or reduce illnesses. There's a host of different performance metrics, but they all boils down to, if you want to run a better supply chain or energy system or health system or anything, you have to make better decisions. So this word decision will be a constant theme that keeps coming up. Now, let me just briefly pause and talk about solving problems. I tend to find that problems come in 2 flavors. Metric-focused problems are when I'm trying to reduce costs or minimize deaths or maximize the strength of material. Decision, and then I have to go find the decisions that accomplish those goals. Then I have decision-focused problems where I know the decision. I need to order inventories or schedule power generators or route trucks or distribute vaccines. I know the decision. I now have to say, okay, what are the metrics that I want to optimize with my decisions? Now, when you look at fields like computer science, the motivating applications in the context of sequential decision problems, which they will call reinforcement learning, tend to be computer games. It started off, they were doing checkers and then backgammon, and then they graduated up to chess and then ultimately to computer Go. Now, these are problems that are very easy to model. The decisions are well defined. The objective is very clear, winning the game. When you come from operations research, my colleagues tend to work on real world problems. We go out into the physical world, and there's all kinds of different problem settings, and the problems are a lot messier. But this is the domain of operations research. Now, I am also informed by a number of different fields that all work in the general area of making decisions over time under uncertainty. Each one of these books represents a different subcommunity. They use 8 different notational systems. They have different ways of writing their problem, different algorithmic strategies, different motivating applications. Fields like optimal control that must have 8 or 10 different major books. Stochastic programming, there's multiple books. Decision analysis on decision trees, there again must be 8 or 10 different books all doing decision trees. So these are all different communities. Now, my own training has a lot to do with my teaching. So that top course, 411, this was the capstone course for my home department, Operations Research and Financial Engineering. It had a theme of dynamic resource management. It didn't have a book. I developed the course primarily in PowerPoint. Now, in the 1990s, I taught a course on Markov decision processes out of the classic textbook by Marty Putterman. Then I transitioned into my own book on approximate dynamic programming when I realized that the classic material in Markov decision processes was mostly just math. It really didn't work on actual problems. I then graduated into optimal learning, which was a simpler class of problems, easier to teach at the undergraduate level, which is important at Princeton. But later in my career, just before retiring, I taught a course on stochastic optimization and learning. The book was called Reinforcement Learning and Stochastic Optimization, which I didn't finalize until after I retired. I also, in my final year, taught a course for undergraduates called Sequential Decision Analytics and Modeling, and wrote a book that used a very teach-by-example style. Now, right now, I have a series of books that are really the foundation of all the course material I'm about to present. One is on framing the problem. This book has no math. It focuses on 3 questions. What are your metrics? What types of decisions are you making? What are your uncertainties? Chapter 2 has a whole series of motivating applications, which I use throughout chapters 3, 4, and 5. But this is a book to just get people started. It really emphasizes that when you're modeling a problem, you have to start in English. You don't want to start in math because it biases the problem. Now, this book is another step up. Again, it's an undergraduate or master's level. It does have mathematical modeling, nothing fancy, but it models the problem with notation. All of the chapters except for 2 are on different applications, but each one follows the same outline, which makes the book very skimmable. It uses something that I will be calling the Universal Modeling Framework. So they're all modeled the same way. I do a short bit on how to model uncertainties. Then I talk about designing policies. My big book, this is 1,100 pages. This is my graduate level book. I taught this at Princeton. My last year, I had 50 grad students from 10 different departments. So not just the analytics heavy departments, but quite a wide range of departments. This book is written at the math level if you are going to write code. If you want to write code, you have to be able to work at this level because these are the equations that you're going to have to write up. Now, I also prepared for this module by reviewing the course at Princeton on reinforcement learning. This was co-developed by Ben Eisenbach in computer science and my former colleague Mingdi Wang, who's now in electrical engineering at Princeton. This course is currently just taught by Ben, and I went through all of these notes, and I used these kind of as a guide. Now, for more material, everything that I'm presenting has background material on the website warrenpowell.org. If you want to see more on motivating applications, go to the menu item on sequential decision problems and then click on application settings.